I put the link in the chat.
Hi, Judith.
Hey, Sarah Ann. Nice to see you.
Yay.
Nice to see all of you.
Yeah.
It is.
I put this on.
Andrea,
Yes, sir.
Don,
We can see.
the two open seats on the board, are they both a full 2 years left?
Correct. They are both 2-year terms.
Okay, thank you.
I don't buy. I buy just the big.
Hi, everybody. Welcome. We'll wait till 1 o'clock to get started, but we are recording and simulcasting to YouTube.
And you want to make sure everybody's muted by when? Or will you mute everybody?
I think Russ is taking care of that, but you're more than welcome to help. And he probably stepped away for a moment. So when he comes back, we can
Well,
check with him.
If he's taking care of it, that's good.
Yeah. But certainly if you see anybody who unmutes by accident and has background noise, you're welcome to help us out there.
Good job.
Yeah, when we call it to order, I will mute everybody except Andrea and myself, and then we will unmute people as we call on them, or ask them to unmute at least. And we've got some good instructions on how to participate in the discussions in our slides, so should be easy.
I'm doing the chalice lighting, right?
Correct.
I've got a quote picked up.
I have to make sure that everybody's wearing a bow tie that's in any instructions, right?
Say that again.
The
We all have to-
instructions have to be done by people in bow ties, right?
Oh,
I'll have
I
to go
didn't
get
bring my
mine.
bow tie. I was saying I got my Canadian tuxedo on instead, so.
Or artificial backgrounds.
Is that it?
Yes.
Russ, are you in Bag End?
Yes,
Cool.
yes, that is my virtual background, is Bag End from the Lord of the Rings.
Very cool.
But he needs a suit of armor.
I need to get me like a Hobbit vest or something. I think that would be really comfy.
Great.
Hobbit feet.
Yes.
Yes, but we wouldn't see them.
I was just imagining if the whole board was wearing Lord of the Rings outfits. Wouldn't that be cool? We had a wedding at All Souls that was, I don't know what it was, medieval times themed. Everyone had swords and outfits.
Ah, wow.
That was
We
whatever
could
it
be
was. a
the
decade
Fellowship
ago.
of the Board.
That's right.
There you go.
On Zoom. Or Board of the Rings, something like that.
Oh, Board of the Rings. I
Oh,
like that.
nice.
Instead of the talking stick, we can pass around the precious, whatever that might be. I see chalice. Where is that with the cinder blocks?
That is a YouTube video that we found online that is a UU chalice for an entire hour that was done by a congregation up in New England.
So this is how we virtually light our chalice in each board meeting.
It's cool.
Okay. Looks like it is 1:01. I will officially call to order the annual meeting of All Souls.
Okay, I will mute everybody and then unmute Andrea real quick.
Okay, welcome. Call to order the annual meeting of All Souls UU Church in Kansas City. Good day. I am Andrea, president of the All Souls Unitarian Universalist Church Board of Trustees. I call the 2021 annual congregation. Sorry, Russ turned that on and it hid my screen I was reading from. So formal. There we go. I call the 2021 annual congregational meeting to order. We are meeting virtually due to the COVID-19 pandemic. We need a quorum of 43, which is 15% of our voting members, to proceed with today's meeting. We will confirm that we have met that 2 ways. We will do a quick count of members logged into Zoom and YouTube. Once we confirm 43, we will proceed. And I will say we already have 59 participants logged in. And I saw a few others over on YouTube. So I will declare that we have a quorum today. The official count will be done with the ballots, which must be received within an hour of the close of this meeting. The definition of a qualified voting member is someone who has signed a membership card and made a contribution of record that is neither a pass-through to another organization nor in exchange for goods between July 1 of 2019 and May 2nd of 2021. If you are, I don't need to do that because we've already said. And we have reached it. So we are good with that. The process for today's meeting. And so you can go ahead and go to the next slide there, Russ. The process for today's meeting has changed as little as possible from our in-person meetings and are the same as we followed last year. The changes we have made are as follows. We will vote with a link that has been sent to all qualified voting members via email. It was sent out around noon today. Do note that the ballot is not active yet, as we wanted to be able to help with the write-in names that we knew were going to be presented from the floor. For your vote to be official, it must be received by 1 hour after the close of the meeting. We will state that time at the end of the meeting. If you have not received your email or you are having difficulties casting your vote, we will provide information on how to request the link, or you can call Scott to cast your vote by phone after the meeting is over. The deadline for the vote will be clearly stated at the close of this meeting. Although neither our Constitution and bylaws nor state law prohibits online meetings, we will ratify all votes taken by the congregation today, effective as of today's date, at our next in-person congregational meeting. And as an aside, when I wrote that last year, I really thought that would have been last October, but here we are. As the ballot will be used to count the quorum and confirm that only qualified voting members are voting, we will only permit voting by email this year. There will be no votes of acclamation. To accommodate the nature of this technology, Russ, the vice president, will be charged with calling on people when we open the mic for comments from the floor. And Russ, I will turn it over to you to show us, yes, that.
All right, so here is the agenda for this. And by the way, all of these documents, if you'd like to follow along, are posted on the All Souls website. And I will drop that link here in chat so that you can find that. So you can follow along with these. But again, this is the agenda for the annual meeting. It should be very similar to the agendas that we have had previously. And so we will go through that list. All right, are there any objections to the agenda? If you'd like to raise your hand in chat or type in chat or anything, we will be watching out for those. Otherwise, we will proceed.
And remember, we have a slight delay on YouTube. There's about 3 people, or there may only be 1 person watching from there, actually. Okay, seeing no objections, I will say we can proceed with that.
All right, so the next thing we will show really quickly is what the ballot looks like. This is a copy of the ballot. This is not the actual ballot that will be activated later on in this meeting. But when you get to the ballot, what we'd like you to do is fill out your name and your email address that you'd like to send a confirmation to. If you have more than 1 person that has received this email, each person should fill out this ballot individually. So you can fill it out, submit the ballot, click the link again, put the next person's name in, fill it out, and submit the ballot. But we'd prefer to have each ballot submitted individually for each person. As you go through the ballot, there's a simple set of yes and no's on the motions that will be made and check boxes for all of the candidates, especially for the Board of Trustees. If you want to just accept all candidates as proposed, you can check mark this box at the top. There will be a couple of nominations from the floor, and we will add those to the ballot before it is activated. So the nominations from the floor will be on the ballot. You don't have to worry about writing in their names or anything like that. And then notice that all of these, except for this last question, are optional. So if you wish to abstain from voting on any one of the motions or any of the elections, you can abstain by simply leaving that blank. But we will ask you to answer this question as to whether you should be counted in the quorum. Hopefully, if you're filling out the ballot, you would check mark yes on that. But that is the ballots. Both Andrea and I will be basically online after the meeting for a little bit, and then we will reconvene after the balloting has closed to count and verify the ballots. If you have any questions, you can email us. At the end of the meeting, we will also post a phone number for Scott England, who will be collecting call-in votes. So if you have any trouble getting this ballot to work, or if you'd prefer to call in to cast your vote, you can call Scott, and he will be able to collect those and get those to Andrea and I. All right.
Thank you, Russ. And can you please unmute Richard so he can light our chalice for us?
All right, so the chalice quote today is from Missouri's own Mark Twain. Kindness is a language with which the deaf can hear and the blind can see.
Thank you, Richard.
All right, so next we'll have the board covenant and the church covenant. And Roma Lee, if I can find you on the list, would you like to go first and do our board covenant?
Treat board service as a spiritual practice. Begin with a chalice lighting and covenant. Participate with goodwill and be accountable to the All Souls mission. Respect others' time. Be on time and prepared. Honor commitments. Honor the approved agenda. Keep comments on topic and succinct. Avoid repeating established points. Coach to these behaviors with kindness and receive coaching with grace. Listen respectfully and with an open mind to ensure everyone is heard, congregants and board members. Speak openly, clearly, and honestly without hyperbole to the board and the congregation. Be helpful, look for ways to say yes. Advocate fully for your point of view, but remain flexible. Respect the board's decisions and present a unified position to the congregation. Embrace the opportunities and challenges of growth.
All right. Thank you very much. And I will lead us in the All Souls Covenant. Feel free to follow along at home. Goodwill is the spirit of this church, and service is its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. And now I will turn it back over to Andrea.
Thank you. I'd like to start with some introductions. Our coordinator for today's meeting is Scott England, and we thank him very much. I think this is the 3rd or 4th year he has done this. He does say it's the last, though, just as a warning. Recording and timekeeping is both being done by Russ, who is our awesome techie in the back end, as well as keeping us in line and following procedure in all of our meetings, including this one. Would also like to thank this year's 2021 board that has proudly served you for the past year. If you want to flip to the next slide, Russ, so they can read those along. I served as your president. Russ was the vice president. Chandra DeMaria served as secretary. She did have to resign 2 months ago, I believe, to take care of some family duties. We had Julie Kaler as treasurer, David Robinson as assistant treasurer, and our at-large members included Scott England, Cheryl Westra, Barbara Bemis, Lana Deely, Tracy Van Quatham, Richard Thompson, and Romalie Taunton. And we thank all of them for their service. It has certainly made it fun to attend meetings, and I have thoroughly enjoyed working with this board. We would like to thank our outgoing members. Julie Kaler, again, who served as treasurer, Chandra DeMaria, who served as secretary. We appreciate what you've done. Lana Deely, who served as an at-large, served in an at-large position. We thank Barbara Bemis, who served as treasurer in the past and then switched over to an at-large members. David Robinson for his service for at least 2 years, if not more, as the assistant treasurer. And as he will be moving into an at-large member position with the congregation's approval. We also thank Richard Thompson for his service as an at-large member as he moves into the assistant treasurer position with the congregation's approval. And I don't think I made a slide this year like I usually do, but we also want to definitely appreciate all of our staff and all congregation members who contributed to making this a successful year despite all the extra challenges. It has been amazing to watch our group come together and continue things as close to normal and create the new normal. So thank you all. Next, we are going to do the approval of the minutes from the May meeting, which contained all of our business of last year, and the October meeting where we awarded the prizes and did some of the fun things we haven't normally done. So we'll give you a few moments here to, if anybody has objections or suggestions for edits, this would be the time to do that, and all affirmations can be done via the email or via the ballot.
And again, if you want to read these on your own, they are on the All Souls webpage. If you go to the annual meeting and click this documents for annual meeting link, you'll be able to find the draft annual meeting minutes from May and the draft October meeting minutes that I'm showing here.
I'm not seeing any hands raised or comments stating that there are objections. So we will move on to our next topic, which is Russ gets to make our board report.
Yes. So this board report can also be found in the same location as these minutes, so you're welcome to refer to that anytime. So it's my honor to go through and briefly talk on what we as the Board of Trustees have worked on over the past year. As you can imagine, starting the board year in May, right in the middle of this pandemic, was really an interesting experience for all of us. I think through the first few months of the pandemic, we were meeting every other week as a board to try and address all the different situations, to look at the budget And so it was really an interesting time to be on the board. But what I did in this report is quickly summarized some of the different things that we have worked on throughout the board year. This year, we approved 12 new members for the church, and we've also approved 1 lifetime member for the church. And actually, at our May meeting in 3 days, we will approve, I believe, 7 more. So we will have lots of new lifetime members. We've also worked with Angie, our membership coordinator, and church staff to help clean up our membership roster significantly throughout the year, doing a better job of recognizing members who have moved or resigned from the church, as well as members who have passed away. It helps keep our numbers correct so that when we report them to UUA and other organizations, we have a better idea of our actual church membership. This year, we looked at several policies. Obviously, the big one was the COVID-19 building use policy, looking at how we can safely use our space, even if we're not meeting for Sunday services and other things. Definitely the hunger outreach team has been making great use of our building during this pandemic, which has been fantastic. We also addressed a policy for emergency online voting so that board members could vote via email very quickly in lieu of having to call an emergency meeting via Zoom to make a vote. We reviewed the policy on policies and we looked at the member status policy, again, related to the roster changes. And really the big work was, and Andrea gets a lot of credit for this, going out and trying to canonize our existing policy booklet. We realized over the years that there were a few policies that had been approved by the board, but for some reason or another did not make it into the existing policy booklet. So actually, as of the end of this meeting, that policy booklet will most likely be canonized as the official policy booklet for the church. We also have passed a couple of resolutions, one on protecting employee data so that only people who are in a need to know basis have access to data about employees and staff. And then later today, we will talk about a resolution on gender pronouns to use gender neutral pronouns in all church documents. As you can guess, throughout this year, the budget was a big concern. With the pandemic, we were really concerned about lack of income from rentals, as well as possible changes to the income that we get from pledges. And so we expected some reduction in pledges, but we actually saw some increases in pledges due to the stimulus payments, which was really fantastic to see that. As a board, as we were figuring out the budget, we did pledge to work as hard as we could to fully support our staff at existing levels. One of the big things we didn't want to do was have to pull back from supporting our staff. And thankfully, due to the work of Leandra and Evelyn and Julie, we were able to secure 2 different PPP loans, which really helped fill a major hole in our budget. And I'm sure Julie and Chuck will talk a little bit about that in their reports. So I'm pleased to report that even though we had planned on borrowing up to $60,000 from the endowment to support our budget last year, we did not borrow any money from the endowment to support our budget last year. That was a huge goal for the board to be able to do that. And even on top of that, Chuck was able to do some fundraising on the side to add new external signage outside of the church. So it actually turned out to be a really good year, much better than we thought we were going to have in May and June when we were looking at the budget. So that's really fantastic. As far as board management stuff, we held a second congregational meeting in October as more of a fun meeting to go over some of the reports and fun things we left out of the May meeting. We voted to make our board meetings via Zoom binding so that we can actually hold virtual meetings. We have worked outside of the board. There's been 2 fundraising committee chairs found. We're still working on finding a chair for the stewardship committee. So anybody that's here that's interested in stewardship, we would love to hear from you. It's become a board goal for this upcoming board year. Our goal is to find somebody to help us lead the stewardship committee by September. So we're really in need of that.
Sweet.
So we've also approved new trustees for Friends of the Forum, and we've moved Renee Price from the forum onto church staff. So that's been a really great thing as well. And we've done our usual things, finding board liaisons for the endowment, the committee on ministry, and we've identified a new denominational liaison that will be helping us keep track of things going on at the more denominational level. In social things, our board read this year was Widening the Circle of Concern, which is a report from the UUA, and I believe the book club has actually read that as well. I encourage you to check that out. It talks a lot about the history of UUA and some of the social justice and racial justice things that we need to be thinking about as UUs. We worked with the Sunday Plus team to turn our board Yule Bach into a free Sunday Plus for everybody. And I had a fantastic time going and helping cook for that. That was a lot of fun. We've signed a couple of letters to the cities regarding local control of KC Police and emergency shelters. As you're aware, we weren't able to have our warming center in our church building this year due to the pandemic, but we were able to provide some support for the city's work on emergency shelters. And we've had lots of discussions at the board on the future of the SRB or social responsibility at All Souls, as well as the impacts of Facebook and our concerns around its impacts on our society. And then one of the big outcomes that you'll hear about later in this meeting was the Equal Opportunity Advocates Policy. It was actually approved several years ago, but it hadn't been fully implemented. And so a task force led by Romalie Taunton, Richard Thompson, and Kendall Gibbons have really put tons and tons of effort into this policy. They identified some advocates, they sent out a survey, and so they're going to share more of their work and the results of that later in this meeting, so I'm not going to take any more of their thunder. So our big board goals this year were obviously surviving the COVID pandemic, and we did quite a bit of work around that. We have fundraising and stewardship. We really identified those as two major gaps in our church's work that we wanted to try and fill. Thankfully, fundraising, I believe we have people on top of that now, which is fantastic. And stewardship, like I said, we are going to focus on that over the summer. And then as kind of an outside goal, several of us are on the board organization and accountability task force, or what we lovingly call BOAT. And we have met regularly to look at the board's processes, our documentation, and we've proposed several modifications to help the board keep track of everything that we're doing and stay on task during our meetings. And it's a continual process of improvement. So we're constantly working on making that a little bit better. So lastly, there are lots of people that the Board of Trustees would like to recognize for their hard work and dedication. I mentioned earlier, Leandra and Evelyn Maddox, as well as Julie, for their work on securing our 2 PPP loans on behalf of the church. That's a lot of time and effort that they put into the paperwork to make that happen, and it has been a huge blessing for our budget to have those 2 in place. We also want to recognize the work of Kendall, Anthony, Mark, Angie, Andrea, and all of the tech team and all of the Sunday worship service team for their hard work making our Sunday virtual services a success. They've gotten to the point where they almost make it look easy, and I know it isn't easy, but they make it look easy. We also wanted to recognize Kendall for her hard work over the summer, coming up with this wonderful co-op series of services that we could have on Sundays over the summer, giving her a little break, but also letting us see a lot of our partner churches in the area and what they do differently. And I thought that was really fantastic. We want to recognize the Hunger Outreach team, especially Mark Gibbons, but all of the regular All Souls volunteers. I always love seeing the pictures on Thursdays of them in making sandwiches and doing work at Conover. They've partnered with groups such as Free Hot Soup in the community and have really been making effective use of our building space during this pandemic to really support the larger community and what they do. We want to thank the Sunday Plus team, especially the Cassidy sisters, but also their entire core of volunteers around Sunday Plus for figuring out how to bring Sunday Plus back into the pandemic and how to give us that brief moment of personal contact and the wonderful fellowship of food that we have as part of our church. So that's been fantastic. I personally enjoyed getting to participate in the chili cook-off again this year. That was a very fun thing that they were able to bring back. We also want to thank just everybody in the church who figured out some unique way to participate in this interesting experience from home during the pandemic, either joining a virtual Yule Bach, checking in with us during coffee and conversation on Sundays, meeting with social groups. It's been fantastic to hear of all the social groups that have figured out how to meet during the pandemic, or just taking the time to join us on Sundays. We really appreciate every single one of you that has taken the time to participate. And then I personally, on behalf of the board, want to thank Andrea Johnson, the one person who will not stand up, but will definitely deserve all of the credit she gets for her exemplary leadership as our board president, working on the SMECT team, and all of those little things that Andrea does behind the scenes to make the church and the board function the way it should. So I want to make sure that Andrea gets recognized. So that is my board report for the year. You're welcome to take a look at this online.
Thank you. Thank you. And the one, usually we make staff announcements. I did want to go ahead and let you know that Lucas has graduated and moved on, and we have a new AV person, Dylan Young, who's been helping out on Sundays, and you will see him when we return in person at the back desk in Conover. All right, next, we have a statement on an exploration of real estate changes. The Board of Trustees would like to share some information with you in the spirit of transparency. As many of you remember, before our renovation project, we considered moving buildings with the goal of getting more space, an updated building, and more parking. As our wonderful urban neighborhood changes around us, we have been approached with a concept for consideration that could potentially provide all of those things in our current location. This idea was brought to us last August, along with a request for confidentiality as it was fleshed out. Kendall and I identified a church member to serve as a liaison with the developers. 3 others have since been added to create a task force of 4. As it is now May and we still don't have any concepts on paper, we have come to an agreement with the other parties that we could share this information with the congregation in the service of transparency. The other parties are still gathering data to see if it is a feasible proposition. With that said, the only thing we have agreed to is a property appraisal to learn the current value of our property. The task force has met with and approved the assessor, but the appraisal has not yet been scheduled. The results of this appraisal will be shared with the congregation when they are available. All we know at this point is that they are considering building a new building for us on our property and providing guaranteed parking spots in one of the new lots that will be built as part of a nearby project in exchange for a part of our land. As part of our continuing effort to be transparent, we will be posting our board trustee meeting agendas on the All Souls website by the Sunday before our scheduled meeting. This will allow those who are interested to join meetings that have topics of interest on the agenda, including this one. Because that is all the information we can share at this time, we won't be able to answer any questions in this meeting today. When there is any information to discuss and actually consider, we will communicate that information and schedule church chats. If any decisions are to be made, a special congregational meeting and vote will be scheduled. So hopefully you find that as exciting as we do, although we know that it could lead to nothing, or, you know, we will hash it through together. And now we will ask Becky O'Connor to make the endowment report.
Good afternoon. I think I'm unmuted now. Can you hear me?
You are, yes.
Okay. I want to just take about 5 minutes of your time and tell you a little bit about the church's piggy bank and what we've been doing with the savings account lately. Really, I say what we've been doing, we pretty much are status quo. What I'm going to do is go through the report that's in that giant page, that PDF that has, I think it has about 4 or 5 pages of endowment information. And I'm going to go through what's on page 14. And my first paragraph in the report just talks about what our history is. Basically, the Endowment Trust has been around since 1975. And we keep large gifts and bequests separate and invest them to provide some ongoing income to the church. And as of 2 years ago, we moved the management of those funds to the UUCEF in Boston. And we've been very happy with their results. Particularly notable last year was all the renewed emphasis and vigor on social justice related investments. It's been very impressive what they're doing. Our balance was at the end of the year a little over $1.5 million in total, and it remains at that size as of March 31st, about $1.5 million. We manage, we are trustee for some other funds as well. We have the Religious Education Fund, Friends of the Forum, Camp Flower, Ministers Discretionary. The Bragg paper funds were, at the board's direction, rolled into the church's operating income this year, so we're no longer managing that. But I am happy to report, and you probably have seen the little 3 Cheers articles I've been trying to write for the weekly newsletter and the monthly flame, that we've received over $56,000 in the last year in bequests, which also means that benefited the church to the tune of about $10,000. And I just want to point out the potential earnings on the low end for gifts of that size would be pretty near $1,700. So that's impressive. Gifts like that really help move us forward. We continue to provide about 4% of the average balance in our funds, the average balance from the past 13 quarters. We provide that as part of the church's operating income every year. And this next year, the amount will be just under $50,000. We do that payment in 4 installments, which sort of helps make it more like ordinary income rather than just a great big influx to the church. We also fund the membership coordinator, and we have done that at different levels in the past, but in this past year, we did that at 50%. We have 5 members on the committee, Lamar Hicks, Jamie Kolsch, Diane Spencer, and myself, and also the board treasurer serves Julie Kaler. She's been a big help to us in the last year, so we're going to miss her when she moves on, but we look forward to working with the new treasurer. Anything else to say? I think I did want to point out last year in our report, as everybody knows, the first quarter of 2020, the stock market took a big hit when the pandemic was roaring. We have made money since then. Everything has turned around. The market bounced back and things look good. So that's really what I wanted to share with you today. That fulfills me making this small presentation to you fulfills a requirement of our governing doc to just keep you apprised of what's happening in the endowment. So I thank you very much for listening.
Thank you, Becky. And next, it's Julie giving us our finance report. And you'll need to unmute yourself, Julie, please. There you go.
Sitting together on a couch makes it difficult to get the mouse to the right place. Sorry.
Understood.
By necessity, this year's finance report will again center around the continuing effects of COVID in the general area. The figures I am reporting are year-to-date through April. Donations, as you've heard, they've been strong this entire year, and we really appreciate everyone's support. The Sunday Plus lunches have brought in nearly $8,000 this year to date. We owe a special thank you to those who have prepared and distributed the meals. Efforts, again, I'm thanking people, Leandra, Evelyn, Charles Dickinson. We put together a second payroll protection program loan of $71,200. In addition, adding to our budget, we transferred the long idled and unused brag funds to our operating budget, which added $16,750. Since the buildings, Church and Simpson House, have been closed, we've had a cost savings of $32,500 for the church and about $8,700 at Simpson House. Losses from the church and Simpson House rentals, Sunday service collections, the auction, and other fundraising amounted to about $55,000. We have not yet needed to borrow as we anticipated from the endowment this year due to these factors, but we will be requesting that the endowment pay 50% of the membership coordinator for the next fiscal year. And that's it.
Thank you. Okay, so next would be Chuck to present the budget for approval, or the budgets, one for church and one for Simpson House.
Okay, thank you all for being here today. We really want to commend the board for their taking hold of our budget situation and making the changes that we needed to do and being as watchful as necessary. Only thing I might add is that we also need to be looking for someone to conduct an auction next fall. That's another important piece of our income, and we weren't able to do that last year. The PPP funds have really improved our operating cash balance very, very much. So we're in a strong cash position at this time. Let's see. Again, I would just like to add my thanks to the Hunger Outreach folks and the Sunday Plus folks and all the other things that get done through this past year. Brief overview for the current, for the proposed budget. This is again a return, based on a return to normal carryover budget, assuming you will be able to get back to normal operating and activities. It adjusts for known cost changes that are occurring, and I'll be offering a couple of minor amendments to the budget as proposed.
Chuck, please get closer to the mic.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry. I better
you.
let me check, make sure my volume's up. It's not. Oops, no, that's not the what I wanted. Excuse me. Okay. A couple, again, the current, the proposed budget is for normal operations. There are a few things that are we're looking forward to as we may have to do, and now we don't know, given this real estate proposal, everything will be kind of on hold until we're settled on that. If that does not go through, we're looking at the need to resurface our parking lot. We have a number of special needs that we'd like to address in Conover and related improvements within the building. We have some reserve, maintenance reserve funds that can help with a lot of this, but if we do proceed with any of this, you can expect there will be some special fundraising requests coming at you. For the proposed budget, there we go. The current pledges are set at $330,000. I think what was presented before the church chats was $340,000, but that needs to be adjusted downward to $330,000. Again, we expect our rental income to come back to normal as well as auction. And then the fundraising has been increased with the enthusiastic support from our new fundraisers, Sharon and Diane Cassidy. The net part is that we are budgeting a deficit, which I regret, but I don't see any way to forestall that at this time. Even beyond that, we're not meeting our obligations to the UUA. And the past salary reductions are continued forward. But I assure you the board and finance committee will be watching things closely and looking for possible savings to see if we can end the year in a balance. One new item coming into the budget is a streetcar levy. This is a special assessment levy, so it's not subject to the general rules of tax exemption for church activities. So there's a streetcar levy on the church and then a separate levy on the Simpson House. Are there any questions at this point?
Chuck, we'll have a time for discussion at the end after you go through all the budgets. So,
okay, all right.
And then Don will get to you, but go ahead.
Okay, well then, as a result of the church chat and more recent cost information, I want to offer some minor adjustments. And I think, Russ, you have that in writing.
Although I found a typo in this. This should be
okay.
330. There we go.
budget is proposed that has been on the church's website. These changes would be made to that. Reduce pledge income to $330,000, increase fundraising income to $3,600, reduce expenses for trash removal to $2,000, increase expenses for music sub pianist to $2,225, resulting in total budgeted income of $521,785 and total budgeted expenses of $541,383, with the result in a net deficit of $19,598. Cutting it pretty tight there. But that's all on the current budget. I think we'd like to address the Simpson House separately after this.
All right, so we'll go ahead and open it for discussion on the church budget. If you'd like to participate in the discussion in Zoom, you can either raise your hand or do some sort of reaction and I will call on you, or you can type in chat and say that you'd like to speak. Then I will call on you and you'll be recognized. You'll be given 90 seconds to speak. Alternatively, if you don't want to speak verbally or you're not able to, you are welcome to type in chat and then either I or one of the other board members will speak on your behalf. So I see that Don Dickey, you've got your hand raised, so I'm going to call on you and let you speak first.
Okay, thank you. You people are doing a phenomenal job with the meeting. One of the creative things done this past year was the little trinkets that went out, the s'mores, the candles, things to help keep us connected in this disconnected time. I learned that that was paid for out of the minister's discretionary budget. Has a line item been added for such things in the future?
No request was made to do that. In fact, I had not been aware of it. So I guess Kendall is satisfied with doing it that way at this time anyhow.
Well, it was done, without forethought. Can we propose that we add a line item for such things?
We certainly could.
I mean, do I make a motion right now? Add a line item for, and I don't know the amount.
Can
Yes,
I
please.
respond to that before we get all formal about it? I will contemplate whether that should be a regular budget item as we get back to normal. But in the meantime, I have the money, so I would rather let it be in fact discretionary, depending on what we decide to do. And I'll bring it to you next year if it seems like a permanent thing that we should be budgeting for.
Thank you for your guidance.
Thank you.
If that feels okay to everybody.
I'm happy with it.
Perfectly fine. Bye-bye. Thank you for allowing me to speak.
And thank you for recognizing that that doesn't just happen for free.
Indeed.
All right.
Anything else?
The floor is open. If anyone else has any questions or comments, we'll wait here a few seconds to see if we see any others. And I believe Scott England is watching YouTube chat. So Scott, feel free to jump in at any time if there are some chats there.
So far, there are not.
Yes. So there's one comment in chat from Carolyn McDonald saying that Friends of the Forum is a trust and funds from it should not be included in the proposed budget.
That 3,000 is that would be the normal income received from donations to the forum during their ordinary programs. That's been the level of income for the last several years.
All right, thank you. We'll wait
The board was considering talking with Friends of the Forum to see if they would supplement the program some more, though.
All right, yes. So Carolyn's response is that means the answer to the comments about whether it should be added or could be added is no. Tracy is asking.
It's not added. I'm saying it's not added at this time. Nothing for Friends of the Forum at this time.
Right. Tracy is saying your audio cut out for me during part of your presentation. What was the item that you regret could not be added back in?
The salary reductions that were made several years back on Kendall and Judith. Katie.
Yes. Okay, Tracy got it. All right. Are there any other questions or comments on the general church budget before we move on to Simpson House?
I move for adoption as presented with the amendments as presented.
All right, thank you. I see that Carol has raised your hand. Go ahead, Carol.
I'm just slipping around between sheets here, back and forth, and having difficulty keeping, doing what I should have done earlier, which was note all of the items in red that suggest future changes or undecided. Or did I miss part of the presentation while I was trying to read it? Could some more of that be addressed?
The items in red are just kind of footnotes, partly from my memory, but for things that we need to be particularly attentive to, perhaps. And such footnotes as we have to have the members approve extending the endowment support for our membership coordinator. Bragg endowment funds that were one-time receipt from surpluses. The red is more usually to highlight something that's a new expense or a change.
All right, Carol, does that answer your question?
Yeah, it gave me time to keep reading while I was talking too. It's just
Okay.
a lot of material if you weren't a good girl and done it and read everything ahead of time. Thank you.
Understood.
Yes. Yes, and it's also worth mentioning that the congregation approves this budget with the changes that Chuck has proposed. But then, of course, the board, as other changes need to be made, the board can go in and adjust the budget during their regular board meetings. So if you have concerns about the budget as it's approved, you can also bring those to the board and we can discuss those as part of our board meetings.
Thank you.
Very true. And do we need a second to Chuck's motion to accept the amendments?
I see Julie with her hand raised as a second.
Okay, thank you.
I presume the vote will be done online, right?
Pardon me?
The vote will be done electronically later, right?
Correct,
Yes.
correct. Yeah, we just, sorry, dog was sitting funny. We just needed the second to be able to have it on the ballot.
Yes.
Right, okay.
And really quickly, I want to jump in with Carolyn McDonald's comment on the forum. That does not mean that Friends of the Forum won't be involved with supporting forum activities appropriately as in the presented budget. Friends of the Forum funds were not written into the budget. So yes, that is correct.
Just one last footnote that when you're looking at this whole thing here, I'm probably afraid I overload people with information, but they may want to look at it. There's one column I in red, COVID savings and deficits. And that column represents the budget as adopted plus or minus actual income and expenses at year end. So the net result, it looked like doom and gloom when this first happened, but we came up with net income of $48,000 because of the PPP funds received last spring. So, okay.
All right. So seeing no more discussion, I see Don. Don, go ahead.
Are the PPP funds to be repaid?
If you don't use them in the proper way, but we don't see any risk in that regard.
So
The first one's
basically,
already been
it's a
converted.
grant.
The first one's already been converted to a grant. The second one, I don't think we've had to submit paperwork for yet, but we anticipate that we will follow all rules to a T and be able to report as such and have it converted as well.
Excellent. Thank you so very much.
Okay.
All right, so we'll shift over to Simpson House.
Simpson House budget then, as you can see, on actual and then if you look at the year-to-date finance report, the income for the house is severely reduced by COVID. They could not conduct weddings and been a very some limited use of the building through the spring. They hope to have regular weddings this coming June, but they're still going to end up with a probably a net deficit of $8,000 to $10,000 for the year. There's a fair amount of savings as a result of the building not being in use, particularly utility expense and some other supplies and things. But again, the budget then is proposed would be to, on the assumption that things are back into normal beginning July. The fees for the use of the house were amended back December. And in a meeting with and showing the house and contracting for future use, there's been no resistance to our increase in prices. And I think we should be talking with Finance Committee, but may want to consider another increase in our rates. The general reaction when people were showing the house, well, that's very reasonable. And I think partly we need to be in a position for potential inflation or cost increases, as well as just realizing the appropriate income. And again, contracts are many months out and sometimes a year or 2 years in advance. So any change in the rates would not be taking effect immediately in terms of income. And one minor adjustment to make in the budget for the trash removal, and this results in reestimating expenses and operating expenses and net income and transfer of the maintenance reserve and the transfer of the church. Mark, Russ, do you have that up?
Yep.
On screen?
Yes.
Okay. So I propose that the budget be amended as shown in that statement. And I propose that the budget be for Simpson House be adopted as amended.
All right. And I see Julie is the second. So once again, if there's any discussion on the Simpson House budget, you're welcome to raise your hand or type in chat and we will do our best to recognize you. And we'll pause here for a little bit to give everybody a chance to ask their questions.
I'm not seeing any concerns about the Simpson House budget.
All right. Yep. Seeing no discussion, if we don't hear anything else, we will again have that on the ballot that you'll be able to vote on at the end of this meeting.
Thank you all. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chuck. And Scott will present our collection.
Yes. So as is traditional, we have a special designation for the collection during the annual meeting. And this year, we've decided that the collection during this meeting will be used to help fund the new picnic tables that will be on the patio. There have been several notices in newsletters about that, that will have the memorial picnic tables. There's information in the chat. So hopefully we will have some new tables to be able to gather around this summer and this fall as we're able to come back together in person.
Thank you. Did we get sorry.
Yep.
I got lost. We got the link posted.
Yes, the link is in chat. Thank you. I believe that was Angie that posted the much nicer bit.ly link. So thank you for that.
Awesome and great. Oh, so it's still Scott. Back to our Outstanding Group Effort Award.
Yes. As our usual annual recognition, this year we discussed as the board and came to the decision that there was a specific group that we wanted to recognize for the work they've put in, especially during the COVID pandemic. And we have chosen to recognize the Facilities Committee and Grounds for all of the work that they did in decisions about building use, in meeting availability, as well as the subgroup of the Grounds Committee, just in all the work that they've done in keeping the grounds up, even though we're not at the church on a regular basis. So we've got a brief little slideshow here just of some of the work that they've done with the grounds and some of the folks who've been involved with that. So if you have not been by the church recently, I encourage you to stop by and just wander around the gardens and around the grounds. You can see in person the new signage. You can see the development of the gardens, the artwork, and various things. So congratulations to them. And kind of in keeping with the idea of the grounds and the facilities, our gift to them and as recognition, I had planned on going out this morning and setting it up in my yard to take a picture, but obviously with the rain, that wasn't quite possible. But we've purchased a gazing ball and a kind of terracotta stand for it to go on, that they can decide where on the grounds they would like that to be placed. So I will be bringing that by the church in this coming week.
Terrific, thank you. Thanks to Bob and Butch and many others who've helped.
Yes, thank you all of the unsung volunteers who have contributed and taken time to help keep our grounds in fantastic shape.
And next is the Lifetime Achievement Award, which was all pre-recorded. So we'll just let Russ roll them.
Bear with me while I switch this so that it will play for video.
On behalf of the Board of Trustees, Ginger, we are honored to present the 2021 Lifetime Achievement Award to you. All Souls members view you and Ed as a team. You are outstanding models for all of us about how to be in community. Together, you have dedicated time and energy with love and purpose to the church and the world. For example, you and Ed raised money for the refurbishing of our grand piano, facilitated the transition of buying Simpson House and integrating it into our church life, developed valued relationships through participation in the Interracial Fellowship House at 34th and Paseo, the AFS Foreign Student Exchange, and the Chamber of Commerce hosting program for international professional visitors. All Souls members know you, Ginger, as a loyal friend and a wonderful hostess who makes that look easy at dinners for 8, choir parties, and other functions. You make things happen, such as many auctions over the years, the sustained success of our art gallery, and Demeter's purchase of our chrysalis and fundraising to meet many other needs of the church. You participated in the establishment of All Souls Continuing Relationship with Carver Dual Language Elementary School. You have been a proponent of music in the life of our congregation. We have strong and varied music in our services because of constant encouragement to think outside the programming box. Always at the front of the line with that encouragement and support, you are the true hero. You have been the person for All Souls who always knew what needed to be done, how to do it, and who could do it. We thank you.
Thank you. And how'd you find out all that stuff?
Well, sure.
All those people.
And Anthony says you are his best cheerleader.
Yes, yes.
And Ray Anderson says you are always available. It's not hard to get you to agree to something if you believe in it. You don't have to do a lot of prodding, and you don't have to be careful about how you talk to you. And Carol Fields wishes you would make it a little easier for us to find out what your honest opinion really is. And this goes with that.
Oh, thank you.
That was Chuck that said that, not Carol.
I'm impressed with, not with me, but with you guys. Thank you.
We're impressed with you, so that way we'll cover everybody in the room. And we knew better than to try and find flowers to add.
Yeah.
So it's a gift certificate to let you add something to your garden.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. In fact, the whole church.
Andrea, I believe you're muted.
Sorry. Thank you to, or congratulations to Ginger. And for anybody who wants to read an even longer presentation with more wonderful things about her, can search her name on the website and rewatch the presentation, see her certificate, as well as read all those other wonderful things that Romalie had so much fun finding.
All right, thank you. So it's my pleasure to announce the Outstanding Service Award this year, and I'm just going to let the video play while I talk. For the Outstanding Service Award, the board recognizes the Sunday Plus team. With the onset of the COVID-19 pandemic, we quickly moved to virtual services and online meetings. However, this meant that we could no longer have our regular Sunday Plus meals together after the Sunday service. Through the hard work of Sharon and Diane Cassidy and their core of volunteers, they developed a way for us to continue our tradition of Sunday Plus meals. Orders are now accepted online, and the meals are packaged so they can be taken home and eaten safely. Throughout the past several months, they were able to continue many traditions, such as the board Yulebach, chili cook-off, Irish feast for St. Patrick's Day, and even partnering with members and guests to share their love of food with the congregation. The Sunday Plus team is a great example of service to the larger All Souls community and perseverance in the face of change. So congratulations to the Sunday Plus team.
And congratulations. Oh, sorry.
We are ready to move on.
Great. The next slide. So next we'll be doing the motion to extend the grant for the membership coordinator. And I'm not positive that Anita knew this piece. We decided to go ahead and ask for this one more time past when we had originally expected to, because it is the only thing we've asked the endowment for this year. With all the other difficulties, we wanted to go ahead and get a little bit of something, and this is where we felt it best to support that.
Okay, so I move that in accordance with the endowment committee bylaws, the congregation is asked to approve an extension of the grant from the endowment fund to cover 50% of the membership coordinator cost during the fiscal year ending June 30, 2022. The grant will not exceed $6,000. Oh, there it is.
Thank you. And do I hear a second?
I see Julie with a second.
Perfect. Thank you. And so a reminder of raising your hands or typing in the chat if you would like to speak, and Russ will recognize you. So you're next.
Okay.
I do not see any discussion. Do you, Russ?
Not yet.
There's
Carol. Go ahead, Carol.
I just want to say, I think in another year of transition, it's another time it's terribly important that we continue to have this membership arrangement.
Thank you. Seeing no other comments, this has been moved and seconded and will appear on the ballot.
All right.
And so Tori's going to make the motions for our resolutions on gender neutral language.
I move that All Souls, following the example of the board, resolves that the congregation use only gender neutral pronouns, they, them, theirs, instead of the current practice of using gender specific pronouns, he, she, in All Souls Unitarian Church governing documents to include the Constitution, bylaws, policies, and resolutions.
Second.
I see a second from Richard.
Thank you. We'll open the floor for discussion.
Madam Chair, I move to cease discussion, seeing as the next agenda item directly relates to this one.
Is anyone opposed to that? Then we shall hold discussion until the second motion has been made.
I move to amend the Constitution, bylaws, and policies to use only gender neutral pronouns, they, them, theirs.
And we will now open for discussion.
I see a second from Richard.
Sorry, thank you. I needed a second first, and now we'll open for discussion.
Yes, and a real quick aside on parliamentary procedure, the reason that we are doing this is two separate motions. Is the motion to approve the resolution requires a simple majority, whereas the motion to amend the Constitution specifically requires a 2/3 majority. That is why we are proposing them as separate motions, even though we will discuss them as one. So I see Richard, go ahead.
Yeah, I want to thank Tori and Andrea for bringing this. Am I on? Can you hear me?
Yep,
yes.
We're good.
I want to thank Tori and Andrea for bringing this forward and everyone that's worked on it. I think this is a great motion and a great amendment. I think that it is a wonderful way to be more opening to the trans community and trans individuals. And we have some of those people in our congregation that would really, I think, feel very affirmed by this. So I feel very strongly that this should pass.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
We have a couple of comments in chat. One question from Don Dickey: how do we label the restrooms? I believe currently there is a men's and a women's and a unisex shared restroom in the middle on the main floor. Is that correct?
Yes, and one of the ways that traditionally is being dealt with that, if we want to work with facilities to do it, is to have one that says stalls and urinals and one that says stalls only, to remove those pieces. And I have to say, when we proposed this, we were specifically thinking of the documents and not that. So that would be another piece to add to it.
And to go along with that, as later in this meeting, we'll talk about the advocates. I believe that might be a good thing for the new advocates to look into.
Agree.
We also have a comment from Beth Andes. This would only relate to written documents, not hymns, sermons, or other things. Yes, my understanding is this is only looking at the Constitution, bylaws, policies, etc.
Yes, and I mean, I believe that most of our things said from the pulpit are usually adapted or commented on as they do or do not follow along anyway. And our hope is just that we continue to encourage anyone up there to do that, but I don't need to encourage Kendall because I think she does it all the time. Any other comments, questions, or statements?
A comment from Anita Squire. I guess that's Anita. Your name is Anita Squire Park in Zoom. It moves us further away from the universal he, mankind.
And I take that as a positive statement. Yes, Anita? Yes, okay. I thought so. Just want to make sure.
All right. Seeing no further discussion.
Excellent. So having segued in, it is now time for a report from our Equal Opportunity Task Force.
Yes, I really quickly want to jump in. Roma Lee jumped in at the last minute saying women and men are not pronouns in that last discussion. So I want to make sure that that got out there. All right, but yes, now we're Richard and Roma Lee to talk about our Advocates Task Force.
Okay, so leading off, for those of you that are unfamiliar, we are appointing 5 advocates to advocate for issues internal to our church at All Souls. These include gender and sexuality, accessibility, race and ethnicity, ageism, and environmental justice issues. Now, these advocates are only, as part of this assignment at least, going to be advocating for issues internal. So they're not going to go to Jeff City and push for like, pro-trans legislation, although that's a wonderful thing to do. Instead, they're going to be advocating for things internal to the congregation, like, maybe the environmental justice advocate would try to get us to have some chargers in our parking lot for electric cars. We so far have appointed 4 of the 5 advocates. Those are Amy Robertson for gender and sexuality, Carol Coles for accessibility, Kathy Weil for race and ethnicity, and Scott Hensey for ageism. We have not found anyone for environmental justice yet. We are still kind of looking at that one. This is going to be a 2-year project, and the advocates are going to start as soon as they're ready. If you are willing and able to be a part of this, I would encourage you to contact the advocate that you're interested in helping out, because they're going to be wanting input from members of the congregation about the issue that they're covering. That's sort of the whole theme of this, is that the gender and sexuality person, for instance, will address, people that have issues with maybe sexism in the church, or issues that would make us more welcoming to sexual minorities. Or you could also contact myself, Roma Lee, or Kendall. I want to thank Roma Lee and Kendall so much for working with me on this project and for helping me, and to Roma Lee especially for doing our survey, putting all that together and doing all the research. And I also want to thank the advocates who have accepted positions, because this is a very important issue that's dear to my heart. And I really am, my heart is warmed that so many people responded so positively. And with that, I'll see if Roma Lee has anything to say, and I'll finish up.
The only thing I would have to say is to thank people for participating in the survey and for the suggestions they made, and thank all of these people who have made the commitment to begin this. and emphasize Richard's comments about needing information and input from the congregation and encouraging you to contact them. One of the ideas about this project is that each advocate would have the flexibility to initiate the action in their area in whatever way works for them. So you can't expect everyone to do this the same way. And if you are really interested in helping, just contact the person that was named. Thank you all.
Can I add one thing before we leave this topic?
Yes.
The part of the model that we're working on in this initiative is that people who are part of marginalized communities should not bear the burden of educating everybody else about that marginalization. So we are really happy to have people who are not themselves gender minorities or not themselves challenged with a handicap to be taking on the advocate's position. And we hope that the folks who are parts of those communities will be in communication with them and help them understand what the issues are, but then not bear the full weight of advocating for that in our congregation. So thank you to the folks who are taking this on, and I hope that that model becomes something that's educational for all of us.
Also, I'm going to go ahead and say that I'm going to drop in the chat each advocate we've appointed so far in their area of emphasis, because I saw someone had a question. They maybe wanted to contact one of them and they wanted us to repeat what they were. I think dropping it in the chat would be best, because that way it's there.
Okay, thank you. And next, we are ready for the announcement of the nominations for congregational appointed positions. I think Dave is going to read that.
On behalf of your nominating committee, your nominees are Alex Westerfeld for treasurer, Richard Thompson for assistant treasurer, Bonnie Postlewaite for secretary, Andrea Johnson, David Robinson, and Cheryl for board, Dave Black for nominating committee, Marilyn Carpenter and Anita Malat for nominating committee, Ruth Robarge for audit committee, Jamie Kolsch for endowment, and we have 2 nominees that we need from the floor, or we'll be having from the floor in a moment. That would be Don.
Go ahead, Don.
Okay, I need a little guidance. I have 2 people in mind for the 2 board positions that are open. May I make that as a single motion, or do I need 2 motions?
I think 1 motion is sufficient.
Okay, for the 2 open positions on the board, I would like to nominate the wise and ever upbeat Morris Mader and the intelligent, gracious, and ever dependable Sue Trowbridge.
Thank you. Do I have a second for that motion?
Second.
Thank you. It's been seconded. And did Carol remove her hand?
Yes.
Oh,
Carol.
it's back up.
Carol, go ahead.
Can you tell us whose terms are being filled? Because these are only 2-year terms, so.
Those 2-year terms, one is Richard's as he moves into the assistant treasurer position, and the other one is Lana Dealey's.
Oh, okay, thank you.
And just to let y'all know, we did already make sure it was okay to approve those 2, so they don't need to tell us it's okay in front of y'all. We just didn't get them picked in time for the 30-day notice to the congregation that's required by the Constitution. So if there are there any other nominations from the floor? Because that we always will open up for that at this point.
Carol, go ahead.
I did try to recruit people, 3 people over the phone today unsuccessfully. I saw that list.
Well, we appreciate
Well,
that.
Thanks.
Thank you. Okay. I'm behind on my list here. All right. So with that, let me go click my magic button over here. Yeah. Okay, so I have enabled the ballot link. You should have received an email around 12:15 today that had a link to all the documents, including the ballot. The ballot should now be valid. It is 2:21, so all ballots need to be in by 3:21 to be counted. If you need to place your vote by phone, please call Scott England sometime in the next hour at 816-304-0152. Be patient with him as he may get a couple phone calls and have to call you back. If you did not receive the email with the link and you believe you should have, please send an email to board@allsoulskc.org and we will get that email and link to you. The announcements of the election results, we will send an email out to everyone who's declared a member. Or let me say that again. Everybody who's already gotten the email will also receive an email with a confirmation of all of the results from this, probably in about 90 minutes to an hour from now. And we will also post it on Facebook and ultimately on the website as well. I think that is it. Were there any questions on process or procedure for the ballots or anything else that we need to address before we adjourn? I am not seeing anything. With that, I will adjourn this year's annual meeting. Oh, Scott's supposed to adjourn it, I guess. Sorry.
With that, we'll adjourn.
Scott. Sorry. I was jumping ahead of myself. All right. Thank you, everybody, for this whole year and being here online. We had a very good turnout today. It looks like we probably hit 70 to 80 people present because I know some devices had 2 people present.
There we go. Thank you, everybody.
Cast my ballot now.
Andrea and I will hang out here for a little bit in case anybody has any questions.
Yeah, feel free to. Can they all unmute themselves now? Or
Yes, you're welcome to unmute yourselves.
Russ,
Great job, fellas. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hobbit.
That makes sense. That makes sense. I haven't seen it, but that makes sense.
Okay, I'm sorry. Was there a question? Tori was trying to figure out what the Hobbit was.
Hobbit hole.
And I see I've gotten one text saying I need to send one to Dory. I will take care of that, Dory. If you're still watching,
I will stop that. And Andrea, if you want to stop the YouTube.
Thank you for that reminder.